Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and tuning up. This is Scott Jensen with my Ancient Wisdom Modern Health podcast. Here, I share and explain how to get and stay healthy with Tai Chi, Qigong, and Kung Fu. Mixing interviews with incredible people and my own insights and experiences, we look for timeless wisdom and proven practices to be healthy and happy today. In today's episode, I look at Qigong in the martial world and the deep connections between classical martial arts and traditional medicine, massage therapy, and traumatology. Today, when people are thinking about learning Qigong, for the most part, they're looking at Qigong as a calming, healthy breathing exercise or gentle movement exercise that's good for recovering from illnesses or injuries and good for maintaining your longevity and health. People also view Qigong as a way to increase their personal energy levels, perhaps to increase their concentration or focus. But when I began learning Qigong, that's not what people were doing Qigong for. During that time period, Qigong was very rare. And for the most part, the only people that were practicing Qigong were the martial arts masters. They were the traditional Chinese martial arts masters who were either teaching Tai Chi or one of the traditional Kung Fu styles. For traditional Kung Fu styles and styles of Tai Chi, learning Qigong is an important part of the training program. The Kung Fu styles focus on martial Qigong, which is a different type of Qigong than healing Qigong or spiritual Qigong. Often martial Qigong does include healing Qigong, and it includes some spiritual Qigong, but the primary focus in martial Qigong, especially at the beginning, is on developing your body's ability to withstand blows from your opponents and to enhance your own speed and power and body control so that your striking skills and combat skills are enhanced. The martial artists were often very skillful and very knowledgeable in their Qigong practice. A martial artist doing Qigong is expecting to have a specific result that's testable. If your body becomes much stronger as a result of your Qigong practice, and you no longer get sick or ill, you no longer get bruised easily, perhaps you get to the point where someone punching you as hard as they can just sort of bounces off and you barely feel it. These are results that the martial artists know whether they've achieved or not. If you get hit and you get a big, huge bruise, it's obvious. If you get hit and you don't get a bruise, that's really obvious. In many cases, I think people can fool themselves with Qigong. They can perhaps think things that are happening that aren't happening. Their imagination will carry them away. As a martial artist, the methods that you're likely to learn, you can see if your teacher has had success in them. You can expect to learn something that way. Sparring with a light touch like playing tag is a safe, fun game that builds confidence and real self-defense skills quickly. To prepare for sparring, I like doing footwork drills with a partner, followed by dodging drills, and first easier and then more structured sparring drills, and finally free sparring. When you know how to use your footwork to outmaneuver your partner and control the distance between you both, your confidence grows. When you learn how to consistently dodge punches from any direction, your confidence grows. When you learn to combine powerful counterpunching with your dodging, your confidence grows. When you practice all of these skills with your friends regularly, your confidence grows and sparring becomes a fun game. When your confidence is based on real skills, other people know it, and that is the best self-defense you can have. Deterring attackers with confidence and a strong, fearless presence so they don't dare to attack is the ultimate self-defense attitude. In our comprehensive Tai Chi online course, we have a separate series of lessons, each containing many fun footwork, dodging, and sparring drills. Learn more by going to 10,000victories.com. One of the aspects that the martial artists, the traditional classical kung fu people in particular had, was their martial arts was already connected to Chinese medicine. And they were already learning traditional medicine as part of their martial arts training in many cases. The breathing methods were connecting to the medicine and the Qigong while they're practicing their martial arts. The martial artists were also in the point of realizing what it was to be very healthy, what it was to really have strong qi, to have a very strong body, and how to build up those qualities. One thing that's very important if you're a career martial artist is if you get sick, if you get injured, that you need to recover. If you're sick, you can't really be a martial artist. If you're injured, you might not be able to fight, or if you had to, you might not survive if you haven't recovered fully from your injury. So many of the practices that are included in the martial arts training were designed to help you recover from injuries. Were designed to build your health so that you would be strong enough to survive a campaign in the field. Those very exercises and practices that they were using to strengthen themselves, those exercises have proven the test of time. When I was going to mainland China during the 1990s, one of the things that was very unique about training in this period was that the old generation of masters who were in their 70s and 80s at that point were simply amazing kung fu people who had learned in the Republican period in the 1920s and 1930s. Their teachers were the type of people who had fought for a living as escorts, bodyguards, professional fighters, and they were steeped in the really authentic, deep culture of martial arts. In that period, Kung Fu skill was the difference between life and death for these men. And you really couldn't fake martial arts. You actually had to know it. The skills that these gentlemen had that I was learning from, they were in their 70s and 80s, were still amazing, and their athleticism was amazing. Very inspirational to see them. These type of people, they're no longer alive. That generation is gone, and I have not seen the current generation really reach these heights of skill that those men had. There's not the same culture and the same environment that would push them to real martial skill in the same way. I think that one thing that separates the martial artists learning and teaching Qigong is that it's a very practical endeavor for the martial artists. They are expecting a specific result, which they can tell whether or not they've gotten. It's not just that I feel a little bit better, it's a really profound change that they're hoping to achieve through their Qigong practice. The martial arts masters also really value their knowledge and that it's been tested and handed down from their teacher from an authentic lineage with experience and fine-tuning and testing and refining the method over a period of time. This is very different from someone who is making it all up or has a very simple exercise, which is really nothing more than a warm-up. It is true that in addition to actually having a large group of authentic practitioners in the Bay Area, we also had our fair share of con men or fakers or beginners pretending to be much better than they are so that they could make money. Back in the 70s and 80s was that there was a branch of people doing Qigong as a spiritual exercise as part of their personal growth program. Many people were fond of doing some rather very advanced, very exotic sounding Qigongs. For the most part, people learning the more spiritual types of Qigong in the 70s and 80s, I would say had little success and many problems. Most of the teachers at that time teaching the what I would call spiritual Qigongs or very advanced Qigongs were doing it as a seminar book-based career making money. And they weren't able, because of the seminar structure that they were doing or distant nature of it, to actually supervise the students that they had closely enough through these very advanced Qigongs that they weren't prepared for. It wasn't a very successful endeavor at that time. However, the martial artists were often very skillful and very knowledgeable in their Qigong practice. When you learn the martial art of Xingyu Quan, if you're fortunate and your teacher also knows the Tuina, you find that there's an incredible overlap between the body movements and the body method required to do the martial arts and develop force, and the body method required to do the massage techniques, which also involve generating some force and different types of force. And there's a lot of the exercises in the Xingyi system that are designed to do double duty, preparing you both to do the martial arts practice and develop power for striking and throwing, and to do the massage therapy and to have both the combination of strength and sensitivity to be able to treat people effectively. In the 1990s, I started learning Tuina and traditional Chinese medicine to supplement my martial arts training. My Xingyi teachers were very insistent that learning traditional Tuina was part of the Xingyi system, and that I couldn't be an expert, I couldn't be a teacher unless I did. And I began learning Tuina. Tuina means push or pull. Tui is push and na is pull. And this is the traditional therapeutic massage system of classical Chinese medicine. For the most part, Tuina is done completely clothed, and it's a fantastic musculoskeletal system of manual therapy. Tuina includes bone setting in terms of even broken bones, but also realigning misaligned bones. It includes very effective treatments for muscle spasms, for muscle pulls, all sorts of traumatology, the use of liniments, the use of herbs, the use of poultices, a lot of very practical techniques that you can use to treat common injuries and also to recover from deeper injuries and problems. During this period, I also started receiving a lot of treatments. In addition to getting acupuncture, I received craniosacral treatments, and I studied craniosacral therapy. I received acupuncture from many different acupuncturists, and many of them in the martial arts community. In general, the martial artists who were also acupuncturists tended to be better martial artists, and they also tended to be the better acupuncturists. My experience was that learning a little bit of Chinese medicine, learning the first semester of acupuncture school theory, made an incredibly profound difference in my perception and understanding of the classical Chinese martial arts like Tai Chi and Xingyu Quan and Baguazhong and even Northern Shaolin. Learning the Tuina techniques and the traumatology over the years has allowed me to help countless students. And if someone injures themselves in class, I can usually treat them and they go home feeling okay. And the recovery period will be very short compared to without having the treatment. That concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you have questions, please send them to practice@10,000victories.com. Please remember to subscribe and share. Thank you. Until our next episode, when I answer the question, what is Qi? Be well and stay happy.